For joining us tonight as we talk about trees and different types of vegetation and their impact on air quality. So this is Tree Week here in Louisville, so we hope that folks have had the chance to take the opportunity to engage in some of the other tree-related activities with some of our partner agencies. I know that there's still several more things going on this week, so keep an eye out for that. But for now, I will pull up my presentation and we will get going. Okay, so my presentation tonight is called Keep Louisville Leafy: The Impact of Trees and Vegetation on Air Quality. So there we go. Some of the ways that trees and vegetation impact our air is they help us to reduce energy use. They actually remove pollution from the air and store carbon. They can help to reduce urban heat. And in other ways, they can also help, not necessarily air quality related, but they help in the management of stormwater. They provide wildlife habitat, including pollinators. They have aesthetic value. They provide noise reduction, reduced pavement management, and the whole presentation could have been on more and more co-benefits, but we'll try to keep to the task at hand here. I won't read all of this, but I just wanted to point out one or two of these really interesting and sort of profound tree stats that I found. One in particular, according to the USDA Forest Service, trees properly planted around buildings can reduce air conditioning needs by 30% and can save 20 to 50% in energy used for heating. So that's a big deal. That can help you save money. And of course, by using less energy to run HVAC systems, you're not only saving money, but you're also cutting back on energy use, which also means cutting back on emissions and helping air quality. And I also found just some really cool stats on just the value of trees in U.S. urban parks. Just alone, the urban park trees in the U.S. are worth an estimated $300 billion. In carbon storage value alone, it's about $1.5 billion. So their trees are extremely valuable to us. The pollution removed in the U.S. just by urban park trees is about 75,000 tons per year. And going back to that idea of trees reducing energy use, so here's kind of specifically how that can play out. You know, you can plant around buildings, including your home, kind of strategically by using deciduous type trees planted along the west and south sides of buildings. Those trees provide shade, so in the warmer months, you can cut down on cooling costs. Evergreen trees, especially planted in rows on the northern sides of buildings, can help block winds in the wintertime, cutting down on costs associated with heating. And again, running your HVAC system less equals saving money equals less pollution. Talking about specifically some ways that trees and other vegetation can remove pollution from the air. Specifically, we're talking about 3 different ways. So you've got dispersion, which actually, when clouds of particle pollution, when those collide with trees and plants, that means that you are decreasing the chance that that those pollutants can be inhaled. And then you've got something called deposition. So when particulate matter gets trapped on leaves and then washed away by rain, that's deposition. So dispersion is how the particulate matter gets caught, and deposition is how it gets kind of washed away. Absorption is how trees and plants can actually absorb gaseous pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides, carbon monoxides, ground level ozone. Unfortunately, there's sort of a cap on how much trees, plants can absorb these types of pollutants before they become sort of damaged and make them more susceptible to insect attack and disease. So while absorption is great, it can only go really so far. And some of you may be aware of a local long-running project called the Greenheart Project. That team is studying the impact of increased greenery in neighborhoods on human health. So that project took some baseline health data from people living in specific neighborhoods, and over the course of years, they are planting different types of greenery, whether it be trees and shrubs in those areas, to see what the impact is on human health when you go in and you increase the greenery in an area. So I've been talking a little bit about air pollution and certain types of pollutants. These are what we call the criteria pollutants. These pollutants are known to endanger public welfare, public health and welfare. They come from a variety of sources. They're very commonly found throughout the U.S. Here in Louisville, we are particularly concerned about ground level ozone, and also particulate matter is a issue that has sort of dogged us over the years. All of those pollutants that were listed before are emitted directly from sources such as tailpipes. However, the last one, ground level ozone, that one is different. It's actually a chemical process that produces ground level ozone. So you've got nitrous oxides mixed with a volatile organic compounds, which is another type of pollution. Those kind of mix together in the presence of sunlight and heat. And after that, you get what's called ground level ozone. What's key here is the heat is a real driver of this process. So the summertime is when we see in Louisville a lot of ground level ozone in Louisville. So the hotter it gets, that can actually speed up and intensify that reaction. Speaking of heat, Louisville, along with a lot of other cities, deal with the issue of urban heat islands. So essentially what that is when an urban area, like a metropolitan area, is warmer than its surrounding rural and suburban areas, because within those urban areas, you've got energy generated by buildings and vehicles, and then heat is attracted to and trapped in those areas by lots of impervious surfaces like black asphalt. When that happens, higher demands for energy to cool buildings leads to more pollution. Higher temperatures, like I said, can lead to the creation of ground level ozone. So trees and vegetation can all help to mitigate this issue, especially very tall, large trees, because they provide shade for buildings and surfaces. This cool spectrum over here to the left shows kind of starting with asphalt, kind of the worst surface that we're talking about as far as heat islands go, gradually up to large trees. And, even in the middle somewhere, native and ornamental grasses, shrubs and bushes, better because black asphalt attracts and traps heat. So green surfaces help to, not do that so much. And actually, when you get into medium and large size trees, then you're talking about the benefit of shade. So, yeah, large trees, canopy trees, crucial to fighting urban heat island. So these are just some examples of how we can mitigate the impacts of urban heat islands. So on the right there, you see a green roof on a building. So instead of just a regular black top building roof, they've installed a green roof. So that will help not only insulate the building, but also not attract and trap heat so much. Just on these photos on the left, you see lots of greenery and also concrete and sort of pervious pavement, not as much just pure blacktop everywhere. If you have to pave an area, there are options beyond black asphalt. There's pervious concrete, which is a lighter color, which helps to reflect that light and heat back up and not absorb it and trap it so much like asphalt does. So just getting into some of the other benefits of trees, safeguarding water quality. So large trees are the best at this. They reduce stormwater runoff, and then they help to filter pollutants from storm and groundwater. So, those big trees with those giant root systems, they really soak up and absorb a lot of water and keep that water from running into our sewer system. So they help keep us safe. Studies have shown that lots of trees around helps to reduce vandalism and crime levels. They help to build community. They enhance our well-being by reducing noise pollution and stress. They encourage outdoor recreation. They're just very inviting, and they actually strengthen our economy because they increase property values and enhance like shopping experiences and also increase worker satisfaction when employees are around or can view trees from where they are working. This is another strategy using trees and or different types of vegetation. So this project was done on the campus of St. Margaret Mary Catholic Community on Shelbyville Road. So this is like right across from the Oxmoor Center on Shelbyville Road. It's a very busy road, so there's lots of vehicles there. So what they did was they put in a row of vegetation along Shelbyville Road, sorry, that's hard to say, in an attempt to block some of that particle pollution coming off of Shelbyville Road and the vehicles in order to sort of mitigate that effect for the kids to go to school there, for the parishioners and whatnot. This is another project using vegetation to mitigate the effects of pollution from roadsides. So the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has taken on a project of installing pollinator habitat along stretches of highway. So not only will this reduce the mowing that they do along roadways, so that will decrease emissions, but they're putting in pollinator habitat, so that's just beneficial across the board. We're talking about native plants, which are beneficial in many ways that I'll kind of get to here in a minute. It's a big project. They're adding a lot of acreage over the next few years. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's a really promising thing that they're doing there. So here's what I'm talking about with natives. So, you hear a lot about native plants, but, here's the deal with why native plants are so important. Um, Once native plants are established, they're generally much more low maintenance than introduced or invasive plants. So less maintenance means less equipment being used, which means fewer emissions, less pollution. Just the beauty of native plants, they're often very colorful. They often have flowers and different fruits and seasonal changes. They're healthy places for people because once established, these plants typically need fewer or no artificial fertilizers, pesticides, etc. They help fight climate change. They help conserve water. They provide natural habitats for pollinators, and I could go really on and on. Natives are just a really good deal for air quality and a host of other environmental concerns. And here are just a few examples of Kentucky native trees and plants, from red maples to stuff you might not see very often, like pawpaw trees, which produce the pawpaw fruit. Plants like little blue stem, which is like a native Kentucky grass. So I didn't want to list too many. There's a very long list of these. I wanted to touch on the issue of tree equity. So not all communities have the same access to tree canopy and can benefit from trees. Many, usually older urban areas of cities, lack the same type of canopy coverage that suburbs and rural areas enjoy. I've put a link here about a website called treeequityscore.org. You can go there and sort of put in information and find out your tree equity score for different neighborhoods. So if you're interested in finding out how an area stacks up, you can check that out there. So following up on that, to bring it home a little bit, here is some information on Louisville's tree canopy. And this was done back in 2015. This was the tree canopy assessment done then. And it appears at first glance like we're doing pretty well because we have, over 35% in tree canopy for the county. However, what this map shows is that those really dense areas of tree canopy tend to be clustered together in certain areas, and you can see in all the pink areas are where you've got really high density areas of impervious surfaces. So not a lot of tree cover there. Those areas of town deal with health impacts that a lot of other places across the city just don't. That's where you see urban heat island effects. It's where you see exposure to higher levels of pollution that many people living in Jefferson County don't see. It's really where people need trees the most, and we just don't have a dense canopy there. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that everyone in the community can benefit from what all trees can provide. And now just I'd like to mention a program that I administer that we have at APCD called Grow More Mow Less. I know that some of you are probably familiar with the program. Essentially, what we talk about is replacing your typical turf grass yards with either, with plant material that either doesn't need mowing or needs very little maintenance. That can certainly involve trees. It can involve, any type of, wildflowers, raised bed gardens, shrubs. I mean, the list can go on and on. It's essentially anything that you would like that's just not your basic turf grass. Turf grass requires a ton of maintenance, and all that mowing, of course, equals air pollution. So that's what we're trying to fight. And this is just a little demonstration of, you go from a yard on the left that needs mowed a lot, so that's very high maintenance, to a yard on the far right, which needs basically no mowing, very low maintenance. So maintenance and emissions are kind of run in parallel on this screen here. And there are a ton of ways to do this, to practice growing more and mowing less, from just putting in, any type of greenery in islands in parking lots. On the upper right there, you see, I don't know what building that is, but it looks like this is the campus of like a school, or maybe a corporate headquarters. And, all of that could be grass. Instead, they've let this grow into, looks like some type of meadow. There's a picture on the bottom there of some really nice roadside plantings. And then bottom right there, there's your typical either, original highlands or Germantown small front yard sloping towards the sidewalk. And anybody who's tried to mow one of those knows it's just kind of pointless. So, you see a lot of the yards like that where they take the grass out and they put in some other type of plantings. We don't work alone on these issues in town by any means. So I'll put up some logos here, some of the partners we've worked with on different projects over the years. And each one is hot linked, so you can click on the logo and go to the website. And that's the end. I've reached the end of the presentation. I've put different contact information for ways to get a hold of APCD in general. Also different ways to reach me. You can reach us through the lawn care email, or my personal email, or there's the Grow More Mow Less Facebook page, or the website. It'd be great if everybody could continue participating in more Tree Week events the next couple of days. If you go to the Trees Louisville website, they've got all of the different agencies participating, and all of the different events going on. And I threw this picture here on at the end here because, while it's kind of funny, it's like an extremely widespread nuisance. We call these mulch volcanoes, and you see them everywhere. It's where landscapers pile up these mounds of mulch around the base of trees. And that is exactly the opposite of what you want to do, because that actually, the mulch up against the base like that can actually cause rot there at the base of the tree. That you don't want to do that. You want to leave the mulch kind of ground level at the base of the tree, and maybe a couple of feet out, if you want, you can build up a little bit of a mulch ring at the edge of the mulch, so that the water that you know, when it rains, water kind of funnels down toward the base of the tree, but then it can be absorbed by the tree's root systems, and nothing is being trapped up against the base of the tree, causing the tree to potentially rot there at the base. So I will escape out of that.
Thanks, Bradley.